Patrick.
Thank you very much, Chair. So I've got a few reports to work through. Largely take them as read. I've got a few points as we work through this. So the first one is the Biodiversity and Biosecurity end of year operations report.
Page 82 to 85, councillors.
It's low on detail for the biosecurity part of the program, as that's detailed in our annual report later on. I guess that there is one thing to note, that there is an additional natural heritage project that has been on the books since 2017 when it was approved by council. It was a land purchase, the Matahuru wetland. That is, I guess bubbled along very, very slowly, and it's now able to be progressed. So yeah, we've reported on that. And apart from that, I'm just really pleased to be able to outline that we've had a really great year despite all the disruptions that all the other programs have had. So, actually, lion's share of the program's been delivered.
Cool, I'm happy to move that. We've got a seconder. Fred, any questions?
I just have one question. And that was just page 83, where we talk about 2 alleged non-compliant events relating to the 2021-22 programme. That one was investigated by the EPA and found to have no basis. So what did you mean about no basis?
They found us to be 100% compliant with all the rules and conditions that we had to meet.
It's just that after our last ICMC meeting, I did where we talked about the fact that we hadn't required the dead cow to be tested, and you said that it was in a state, it was 3 weeks old and was too difficult to test, and that the farmer himself hadn't got it done. I did ask the EPA about that, and what they came back to me with was that the decision was based on information gathered from the Waikato Regional Council, the cow owner and the operator. No information about the cause of the cow's death was provided to the EPA, as the cow was not analysed to confirm the cause of its death. So how can we actually say that the alleged non-compliance was found to have no basis?
Because that's what the EPA said to us with the information that they were provided and their investigation.
Because we couldn't provide any testing results, they weren't actually able to tell whether the cow was present.
That wouldn't have affected whether we met all our obligations or not.
So even if we tested it and it was found that it had brodifacoum poisoning, would it not have had any effect on compliance?
There is no way that well, from what the EPA have said, is that we met all our obligations, which is keeping all of the vertebrate toxic agents out of the way of stock, so they couldn't have accessed it. And because of the reasons that when we discussed this previously, level 4 lockdown, had to send a staff member up. The landowner didn't notice for a long time that it was dead, and they didn't want it to get tested. So that's the reasons, and then we provided everything to the EPA. They came back saying no breach of any conditions.
So I guess I just wanted to comment that there was no evidence of any breach, but I do actually think that testing should be required in those circumstances when we've just done a pest control operation. I think it's pretty important that we do that.
Yep.
And so I'm just really just wanting to confirm that that's what I think. And I do think that, when we say it was found to have no basis, I think it is dependent on what information we actually provide. If we don't actually provide any testing and the farmer doesn't provide any testing, then it's not possible to actually determine whether or not there was any non-compliance.
Thank you. Boy, we've got a whole line of questions. Stu.
Good report, Patrick. I have to say this, Kathy, it feels to me like you want the organisation, WRC, to be guilty of breaching some rules, you know. I'm just not sure what else we can do, what our staff can do to give you satisfaction that they're doing everything they can to abide by the rules and regulations. Look, I don't need a response. I'll just leave it there. That's all, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Fred, yeah.
Yeah. Alligator weed around the foreshore of the Aotea, the Kawhia Harbour. What state is that at the moment? Or should I ask you?
I wasn't listening to the story. I was reading one thing.
Alligator weed.
So that's in the next report.
Oh, next report.
Yep. Cool.
Okay,
thank you.
And then the coastal care groups. I didn't realise this was your part of your thing on page 85 about the coast care programs. That's where I thought alligator weed might be part of that. The plantings, I've watched the plantings happen in, on the Ngaranui Beach, Raglan, West Coast areas, year after year after year, and then nothing's really, next to nothing's established. In fact, it's all washed away. It's all washed away every year, and it comes back. You do it again, it washes away. This time it's washed away. I don't think there's anything left. Yet we'll do it again. When do we actually acknowledge the fact that sea level rise is rising, and this is probably just chucking money down the dunny?
That might be the case for that area, but there are other, majority of the projects are doing really well. That soft engineering, soft approach to it rather than seawalls is actually doing really well. Some of the ones down in the south and near Moko are actually really impressive with how well they're working.
Well, that's good. So they are working in some locations. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm not everywhere, but I've noticed what's happening there. And it's
pretty complex program when you look at, how much sand is being replaced in the bigger system, and how to deal with some of those areas are really, really tricky.
Thank you.
Kathy.
I just want to respond. So this is really just for Stu, because he asked a question around what it is that I would like and what would make me happy. So I think we should have tested the cow for the toxins that we used. I think we should follow best practice. And I just wanted to say, I've been here for 9 years. I've seen multiple incidents that have been hidden or understated. And I've also seen the EPA giving our contractor a formal warning. So I think there are a lot of reasons for me wanting us to follow best practice and a good process so that we actually manage our risks the best that we can, and that actually farming is protected as well, that we don't run the risk of people thinking that our stock can easily get poisoned one way or another in our pest control operations. So
I'm sure our director will want exactly those same things. Yep. Right, we've got a mover, we've got a seconder. All those in favour? Carried. Next item, please, Patrick.
Cool, thank you very much. So this is the annual report and the annual report for 21-22 and the operational plan for 22 going through to 32. So the annual report is the final one covering all of the activities from the old regional pest management plan. It covers off the activities that WRC take responsibility for, as well as activities that landowners have responsibilities to undertake, and our partnership programs. Again, very similar to the other programs, despite all the disruption as a result of COVID, the programs stood up really well, and essentially everything was delivered, which is a testament to the team's hard work. We continue to leverage significant funding out of central government, as a few examples. Almost 1.3 million for the Kauri Protection Programme, $500,000 for from Land Information New Zealand to support our aquatic program in the Lower Waikato, and geothermal protection, and a range of eradication species that we work in partnership with the MPI.
So this is the previous
Previous
plan.
years. Yeah, so this is the wrap up of the
Yeah.
last.
So it's just a wrap up of what we've, yeah.
Yep. Just a couple of points on the Wallaby program. You'll recall that we're part of the National Wallaby program, which is now branded Tipu Matoro, or Wallaby Free Aotearoa. Bay of Plenty Regional Council holds all the funds for the North Island for that, although a lot of the work sits in the Waikato side at the moment. Our Wallaby dog surveillance teams walked over 10,000 kilometres this year. We've done control over 100,000 hectares, which is significant, and almost all of that was night shooting with thermal gear and where wallabies are at low density. And we've responded to quite a few sightings outside of the containment area, which is becoming quite a significant component of the work. Most recently in Mokau and Huntley.
Geez, are they that far down?
No, they've been intentionally released.
Oh, yeah.
Our program continues to receive large numbers of inquiries, with almost 1,000 last year, and we're on track again for at least that number. And I guess from me, the team have worked really hard to try and make the annual report a bit more easily digestible, so a few less words, a bit more of a summary, and make it a bit more digestible. So I hope, if you've got some feedback on that, that'd be great, but we have certainly tried to condense it down a little bit so it's a bit easier, and we'll continue that through to the next year.
I think it's a very good report.
Cool. Just a couple of things on that. So the operational plan that we've prepared for the next 10 years is something that we have to prepare as the new RPMP was, after the new RPMP was approved. Again, we've aimed to make it easier to report on. So you'll see that the format is very different from previously. So very much with the mind of providing information to governance so that you really get a feeling for whether it's on track or off track. So you'll see that every component of the program has a clear objective. So what are we going to do and why? It has deliverables we're going to meet, which is how the program will be implemented, and some key performance indicators around the targets that we're trying to hit. And it is a 10-year plan, and this is to try and give it some continuity so that we can really aim at achieving our biosecurity goals, but it will be reported on annually. And it covers off all our RPMP programs, but we have at the bottom of it, you'll see that there's also, we've pulled out the key actions and the focus areas from the strategy that was also signed off. And look, I don't want to go on to give you some time for questions, but just want to thank the team again for developing what I feel is a really cool report and a much clearer plan for the program going forward. Thank you.
Well, can I have a mover and a seconder, please?
Yeah, I'm happy to second.
Mover, seconder. Stu?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Patrick, I think it's a good report, and I'd be reluctant to see it, particularly the annual plan I'm focusing on here, thin down anymore, because very few of us want to know everything about every plant species, but I think most of us probably want to hone in on a couple of specific things that are an issue in our patch or whatever, and I would imagine the community are probably in the same boat as well. So I think it would be detrimental to try and thin it down. Just be some feedback here.
Cool, thank you.
Just a general question. I see that Bailey, the dog, indicating evergreen buckthorn. Is detector dog use for pest plants starting to become quite common, is it?
Yeah, it is. So we started with the velvet leaf program, and now that handler, well, other handlers have trained dogs for velvet leaf. We've been trialling on evergreen buckthorn. We've got a dog trained for alligator weed now, and we are looking at other ones as well. They're amazing.
Yeah. So
far
all
better
these
than us.
plants obviously have their own unique scent.
Yeah. Oh, you just see it time and time again. They pick up things that our staff will walk past.
Yeah.
So it's really impressive.
Yeah.
really
No,
efficient.
That's cool, actually.
And they can
eh?
cover a whole lot more ground. So
Yeah.
it's really cool.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, no, cool.
Kathy?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want the content thinned down either. I think on the whole, it's really good. The only thing that I would like to see is the quantities of the agrochemicals that are used so that we can compare that from year to year. And, you know, the EPC has expressed a desire in the past for us to reduce quantities of things that we're using, herbicides, for instance, so it would be really useful to have that in the annual report so that it's easy for us to see. And also the PCE report, which is, you know, the one which has been put out to do with fate of contaminants in our environment. They've said that there's concern that there's no register of quantities used in New Zealand and where they end up, and they want there to be change around that. So we've just had a report about that to our committee, and so I think it would be a useful thing for us to start to collate and actually report regularly each year.
Cool. Thanks, Kathy.
Look,
Fred.
just quickly, the intent isn't to, I guess, shrink the detail down. It's just rejigging the format.
Fine-tuning it.
And a lot of it is, it was big narrative, you know, and sometimes that's a bit heavy to wade through. So reformatting and align it better with the KPIs and objectives.
Fred? Okay, can I have a mover and a seconder, please? All right, all those in favour?
Fred,
Yes.
you were being asked.
Called
to
on you 3
succeed.
times?
That was my fault.
Oh, gosh. Well, you know the question.
I know. Put it. Give them the question.
You want it again? The alligator weed around Kawhia Harbour, please. What, you know, I've seen it. I presume it's been dealt with. I see that there's a small boat and it's surveillance, and it has been dealt with.
Well, it is being dealt with. It won't be dealt with for a few years, but we're certainly doing surveillance. You know, expanded the surveillance and have a management plan for that site now.
Looking in the photo, and it's hard, but it almost appears the alligator weed is on the other side of the fence already.
It's been there for a little while.
The other side of the fence?
Yeah.
So why isn't it controlled so stock don't spread it?
We didn't know it was there.
Well, even now, it looks like it's still not controlled.
Well, no, that was a photo of when we found it.
2 years ago.
Oh,
So,
got ya.
so
Okay.
now there is a management program that incorporates not grazing the bit that we can, and surveillance up the catchment, up the hill.
So it's quarantined off and dealt with.
While
Thank
to be
you.
controlled.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you. So I'm going to put that. All those in favour?
Aye.
Carried. Item 17. Kauri Protection.
I do believe we have Kim Parker online.
Ahiahi Māori e tātou. Thank you, Chair. I'm actually incredibly excited today to come to Council to give an update on the Kauri Protection Programme. Council did resolve in 2019 to strongly advocate for the enactment of the National Pest Management Plan and funding thereof. It's pretty exciting that through this advocacy and works that councillors and council have been undertaking, that the NPMP did come into enactment on the 2nd of August this year. Part of this enactment, there is one rule that will come into enactment next in 2023 as well. So that's great news to be able to update council with. This will be an important part of the toolkit for protecting our taonga species going forward. We also had nearly $1.3 million of funding come through in approximately November last year to increase our level of service to bring the community up to speed with these incoming rules. We have successfully achieved nearly 80% of delivery of that funding, even with shortened timeframes for delivery and COVID impacts. Initiatives have included over 12,000 hours of animal control activity. Over 24 community groups have been engaged with, in cleaning stations, installed tracks, mitigated and upgraded. Phosphite delivery trials in Whangapā were monitored, which are showing promising results in halting the decline of the disease. We trialled eDNA for further detection activities and had over 13,000 metres of stock-proof fencing put up in really high priority, ecologically significant Kauri areas. through this recent governance group meeting, Council has requested for $400,000 of funding to continue this level of service with the community this financial year. Since the writing and delivery of this report, the governance group has confirmed that they will be supporting Council with this funding. Further funding will be requested later in October, which is likely to be delivered to Council in November if Council is successful in eliciting further funding. Probably one of the key challenges with this program is that it has come with lighter funding than had been requested from central government, and also the delivery of funding on an annual basis with no certainty, and increase in other parties being involved in the delivery of the program. And so staff will be considering a business case to put forward to Council for the annual plan. In Councillor Kneebone, there has been detector dog trials in Auckland for the detection of Kauri dieback, which they're successfully picking up in oats at the moment. So oats have less other smells for the dogs to pick up this pathogen, and they're just moving on to soil at the moment. So they're going to be a pretty cool part of the toolkit if Auckland Council can get them up to speed for the detection of Kauri dieback.
Oh, thanks, Kim. Yeah.
Blue. Thank you. With the Kauri dieback, I see that there's now Kaihakatea dieback. Is this also a concern, or is there any work? I'm also aware that through the plant protection outfit that Greg's aware of now, that there is potentially 90% of our native species under risk of the same sort of disease, this dieback that is that's going through Europe, killing all their forests. Are we up to speed with any of that? Because we are, in fact, through being spreading plants all over the country, within that soil, potentially spreading disease along with those trees, which is really critical that eco-sourcing and plants are not brought in from outside the specific areas, or we could potentially be wiping out our forests. Are we aware of that?
No. No, I stick to my cow shed.
I'm incredibly pleased to bring that up today, Councillor Litchwick. It is a really important, the nursery industry is a really important biosecurity pathway that we do need to be managing. You're speaking about Phytophthora ramorum, which is sudden oak death, which has been ramping through Europe and America, and you're utterly right. It is a massive problem and a significant threat. It's a threat not just to our native environment, but actually also to our commercial forestry industries as well. So New Zealand Plant Producers Incorporated have been working really hard on a nursery scheme to manage biosecurity pathways called Plant Pass. And it's a voluntary scheme for nurseries to sign up to. Council has just signed up to the Plant Buyers Accord, which is an initiative to drive that voluntary uptake of that biosecurity accreditation. So we are aware that there are other phytophoras which are threatening the well-being of our environment, and you're utterly correct that this does need management or consideration by Council. And the Phytophthora affecting Kaihakatea, sorry, that's currently under investigation by Scion.
Yeah, I wonder. Cool. So this will need to go through Council, to strengthen our biosecurity controls on spreading soil from one spot to another.
That's next triennium.
Yep. And would that
change that immediately?
Yeah. Will that be through what committee, do you think, Stu? This one.
Strategy and policy.
Strategy and policy. Okay.
Yep, both of the things we talked about today. The other thing you wanted to change, and this will go through strategy and poll.
Thank you, Stu.
Yep. Can I have a mover? Thanks, Pamela. Seconder, thanks, Kathy. All those in favour? Carried. Right. We're going to move on now to the Environmental Initiatives Fund. Thanks, Judy. Many years ago, it was the policy of council to that staff weeded through the applicants. We're talking minor amounts of money here. So I'm hoping we can actually take this as read, Judy. I'm going to move the staff recommendations. Do I have a seconder? Yeah, I know we've got, I know, yep, I'm not cutting down the corridor, but I want to get straight to the questions. Okay, so you've had a really good report here from staff. Staff have gone through and listed who they believe are fit for the money. So let's start with the questions. Stu.
Thanks. Hi, Judy. Just a couple of little ones. The Tutiawa program, the wages for the project coordinator, just curious as to how those wages had been paid up until now.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and Councillor Kneebone. So this group has been supported through EIF grants in the past. So they've had a couple of their EIF grants that have been multi-year grants that have supported the project coordinator wages for about 5 years now.
Oh, no, cool, thank you. And the other one was the Te Moata Century Wild Pine Removal Project. Just wanted to encourage you to take a strong stance, which you are doing, but just put my support behind over the methodology for that control, because I agree it does seem a little bit loose the way they were proposing to do it. So, and it doesn't seem to me that drilling a hole and putting a little bit of Roundup is really going to be an issue in terms of toxin use. Yeah. So thank you. Otherwise, I'm fully in support. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks,
Stu. Good bunch of applications, really. Eh?
Kathy.
Yes, thanks.
Oh, is it Kathy? Who else is
Else?
Oh, no, just Stu.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Kathy.
Yep, I'm in support of all of them. I just have the opposite view to Stu on the last one, and that is just that, I mean, I'm concerned that we say in that last paragraph that trust prefers, where it says the trust prefers felling as opposed to toxins, and this will need to be discussed further with the trust. And then where we say funding will be contingent upon pest plant control methods acceptable to council. I'm just a little concerned that that means that basically we're going to say no to them unless we tell them that they have to use toxins in the way that we require. Is that basically what that last bit is saying?
I think at this stage we don't have any firm ideas on how this control will need to take, or how it will take place. So I think probably the best approach is that we actually go and visit the site and see where these trees are growing. I think some of them are growing in quite large sort of groves. So we will need to talk about that with the trust and with our wild and pine control project manager, Clark McMillan. Determine, there may be some areas where the trees will have to be drilled and felled, and other areas where they can be felled. So it might be a combination of those methods.
I think we'll fall back on the best practice from the National Wilding Pine Programme. It's really good, which takes into account.
I just wanted to reiterate the fact that, in my committee, we have talked about wanting to reduce the amount of toxins that we're using where we can. So just like that to be borne in mind.
Fred.
Just slightly off this topic, but have you applied for at least double the amount of money in the annual plan to top up our accounts and keep more community groups going, because we know the value for money we're getting in doing this work?
So that's really a long-term plan issue. So we will be looking to do that in the next long-term plan, but perhaps I'll hand over to Patrick to talk about it.
So you'll recall that the Natural Heritage Partnership Programme is part of the wider contestable funding review that we're undertaking, and the decision was made to flatline the rates for the Natural Heritage Partnership Programme until the next discussion through the next LTP.
Flatline it. That wasn't me though.
Cool, thank you. I'm going to put it now. No more questions. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Thanks, Judy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next item.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chairman. Look, I just wanted to acknowledge this is the end of the training for this committee. And so I would like to just take a moment to acknowledge some contributions. And for me, firstly, to acknowledge staff. There are a number of staff in the room today, online today, that you've met and throughout the training. And I think what you've heard today is, we're all passionate about what we do, really passionate about the outcomes that we're providing in the communities. You've seen some really great examples of that over this training. And we've worked incredibly hard over the training to really provide this committee with the visibility, transparency and assurance that it needs. And especially in this stage where we're without catchment committees, I suppose that's been an interesting journey for us in terms of getting that level of detail right for yourselves. I'd like to acknowledge members around the table as well. It's been an interesting training, to say the least. I think we've had changing directors, you've had different people in this seat, changing structures, you've had COVID, so we had several of these online, so that's brought out its own challenges. And so I appreciate the service of members to this committee in helping us to do what we need to do at ICM. Do have a couple of retiring members, obviously Councillor White and Councillor McPherson isn't joining us today, but we also have our chair, Councillor Husband, who's retiring. So just like to acknowledge Stu, it's been 9 years, 3 trainings with us, and I think I was doing a bit of reflection over the last few days about the political doozies that we've thrown your way, I suppose, over that time. And we've got, for a number of us ICM staff, some names that will be forever etched in our minds.
And the ones he's thrown your way.
There's been plenty of those too.
Things like Lake Waikari, Section 128, Tauhei, Graham's Creek, mangroves, muggerages. Shovel Ready has been an interesting journey over the last few years. Yep, koi carp, of course.
Yeah.
Yep.
None of that garbage in it.
And of course we had a few flood events in there as well. But look, Stu, we've appreciated you're always a consistent voice around the table for the community. I think that's one thing that you've always been consistent on, and making sure that we have complex programs, we do complex work, and you've always been keen to ensure that we take communities along on the journey with those, especially where we've got change that comes through. So so all the best, Stu, for what lies ahead for you, and thanks for your service and commitment over the last 9 years to ICM. And we'll see what lies ahead for you. No doubt, I'm sure we'll see you around one way or another. So. You will. Yeah. Now, we do have a visitor today from Whitianga, of course. Emily's come down, and I know that you've had a number of worked on with them on a number of projects. So I'll pass over to Em quickly.
Is that a broomstick?
Em, could you put the microphone on? Can't miss this one.
Kia ora, thank you for the opportunity and the introduction, Greg. No, this isn't what I flew down on. A wise person once said to me that a shovel can be very handy depending on how you use it or how you hold it. So I'm here today on behalf of your Coro girls, as we have been referred to from time to time.
Yes, you are.
So Julie B, who's online still, and me. So over the 9 years that we've worked with you, Stu, I guess there was one thing in particular, or a few things that stuck in our mind. A number of them weren't appropriate for this forum. But the first was the first impression when you arrived in the Whitianga office, and what I now understand that you're not allowed to wear currently, which is stubbies, red bands, a really old T-shirt with remnants of cow shit on it. So that was our first introduction of you in the Whitianga office, and that is surprisingly stayed with us. But we did want to note your unwavering representation of the ratepayer view, that you love to get out and see things firsthand, though we're not sure if we ever got you to muck in, so this can help with that. And we've, I think me in particular really appreciated the support with Graham's Creek, that you were there at all those community meetings with us, and that you did really champion that, and now along with Piako Green Corridor. And so while you may have rewritten the script from time to time, Julie wanted to note that you were indeed a star when it came to the flood campaign. So from the Shovel Ready team, we thought you should have your own shovel, because we never know what situation you may need to get out of, or when it might come in handy.
Thank you very much, mate.
new one of whack, you know, whack 'em with it.
Thank you.
Well done, Emily.
Oi. Come and talk to the microphone. Just note while Stu's coming back to the microphone, they've invited staff to join us for lunch as well. The committee for the final meeting.
Yeah, it's always good to have the right reply. Thanks, Em and Julie. I mean, with you guys and Claire, when I first started, and I, you know, exactly turned up in shorts and a t-shirt, and I always remember Claire sitting next to me, and and how many times I've ever been told to shut up by a director. She goes, shut up, shut up, shut up. You know, as we're going, as I was getting myself deeper in the shit. Now I can use that shovel to get myself out. So, it's people like that and the politicians along the way that have formed, you know, who I am. But I guess the biggest thing for me is, you're exactly right, community are number one. And Graham's Creek was challenging but quite cool. And obviously it was a lot of work of Clyde at that time, was the councillor at that time. And but I think the biggest thing for me was the biggest dent in me, and what has actually made me stand down, is the removal of the catchment committees. It actually really hurt me, you know. So I can't even talk about it. It's so important to me that we have that community voice, you know, that community gets a say, and we shouldn't be frightened of it any more than we're frightened of Māori participation or any participation. We shouldn't be frightened of it. No, it's nothing to be scared of. You know, it's just another view and what I've found the hardest this triennium is, I always used, for the last two trienniums, I used to be able to say, hey, but it's been through the committee. Hey man, you know, don't come and attack me in the street. It's been through the committees. You know, like, whereas this time we haven't had that shielding, and neither have staff, you know, to be fair. So I really hope and pray that that Greg has heard it loud and clear, especially on the schemes. You know, I understand the other areas will have their own intricacies, but for Coromandel, Waialpiako and Lower Waikato, I truly believe those committees should be back in full. So, and not how they were this year, back in full, you know, like back proper. But just wrapping it up, I've really enjoyed the last 9 years in the catchment space. We've had some excellent fun, you know, and you've got such a great team. I hope the councillors that are standing again recognise that and pay accordingly. I don't want to see staff tipping out the door all the time because they can get 10 grand more down the road. You know, I really hope that we start paying accordingly. Adam's taken on board the apprenticeship scheme that I'd love to see, that we can retain staff and give them some sort of career, some sort of future, whether it's just spraying drains, but some sort of apprenticeship future, you know, that they were building into. So, and Greg, you've just got such a fantastic director who stepped into the shoes of another fantastic director, Claire, you know, so I've been very, very lucky with the directors and the staff that I've had to work with. And I know I've been really cheeky and naughty sometimes and probably need that shovel over my head. So, but it's always been aimed at the item, not the person. I've always tried my hardest not to put people in that feeling that it was their problem. You know, it's the item issue. You know, so yep, that's it. Thank you very much, Greg. Yeah, thank you, and thank you to the fantastic staff that WRC has. And I really hope the councillors listen and pay people what they're worth and retain them. that's really important in this environment. People are losing staff left, right and centre over $5 grand. So thank you.